This is KMCV Channel 7, the only local channel covering all of the CNMI.
You're just in time for KMCV News.
Here are some of the reports you'll be seeing within the next half hour. One lawmaker raises questions about the language of a 40-year lease of government land in Marpi.
And we're surrounded by festering bacteria. Tonight we continue our series on the Commonwealth's polluted waters.
In Augusta, it was his second win at the Masters, and it took great putting to wear the green jacket.
KMCV News is coming up next.
Stay with us.
Buenas noches para todos, Hamzu, Tato Saipan, Luta, Dantinian, Guahu, si Carlotta, Dilian Guerrero.
Good evening and welcome to another week of news at KMCV. I'm Glenn Wakai. We'll have weather and sports in just a few minutes.
But first, topping our cast this evening. Weeks of intense lobbying ended this morning with the signing of a contract to salvage Manila galleons that went down in our waters hundreds of years ago. Mainland-based IOTA partners will be doing the work. Here's that story.
Could afford to cool his heels just a little bit in the governor's office this morning. The president of IOTA Partners, a treasure ship salvaging enterprise, had his contract sitting on the governor's desk waiting for his signature. Harbiston has been working for 4 years on getting the rights to salvage Manila galleons. For the first several years, it looked as though his company was the only one interested in getting the contract. Then 3 local residents formed a company called Proa Partners, and they also lobbied to get the salvage rights. Proa Partners was in loose association with Donald Nixon of American Institute of Marine Sciences. But it was the lack of response from Proa, says the governor, that prompted him to move ahead with signing IOTA's contract.
But we have never had received any official proposals from these people. And because of that lackness of failure in producing any proposal or any official intent formally from this group of people, so we went ahead and we decided that it's time now that we have to make that decision, and hope the decision that we are about to sign the contract with you will be, as I said, it will be in the best interest of both the CNMI, the people of the Commonwealth, and your company as well.
Harbiston has 1 year for archive research here and in Europe. Then he must submit plans to search no more than 12 areas of 8 square miles each. If all goes well, he says he hopes to have crews in the water before the end of the year.
If one thinks in terms of treasure hunts, then the treasure hunt really occurs in the archives. You don't just go out and take a map with an X on it and that's where the treasure is hidden and you go there. It just doesn't work that way. It takes a lot of time and a lot of money. We anticipate spending at least another $100,000 on research before we're ready to even plan a survey expedition.
Pro Partners say they had a 4 o'clock meeting this afternoon with the governor. At that time, they hope to present a letter from their mainland backers reiterating their interest in salvaging ships from NMI waters. 6 local congressional leaders and 3 senators urged the governor to give Proa Partners and AIMS, American Institute of Marine Sciences, an additional week to present a proposal. Nonetheless, the governor has the authority to make the decision.
A man who had pled guilty to voluntary manslaughter will need to salvage the next 10 years of his life behind bars. Joaquin de la Cruz was sentenced today by Judge Marty Taylor after being found guilty of killing Johannes Jefferson with a baseball bat. The incident late last year took place in a Kobler basketball court. Judge Taylor described de la Cruz's incarceration as short, but he says he was constrained under CNMI laws. Taylor notes that de la Cruz has shown no remorse for his actions. To compound the problem, while the manslaughter case was pending, de la Cruz was picked up for burglary and theft. For those crimes, de la Cruz was sentenced to 5 years in jail. He could be eligible for parole after 3 years.
In an effort to better her life, a Korean woman's struggles took a turn for the worse. Young Soon Kim says she was duped into handing over $78,000 to a man who then allegedly assaulted her. The unidentified Korean man reportedly locked Kim and her 2 daughters in his Koblerville home and warned them not to go outside or they'd be sent back to Korea. Assistant Police Chief Ray B. Camacho says a few days later, Kim and her daughters were then transferred to the Manslaughter Canoa store in Char's commercial building. Kim told officers that she was beaten up by the man last Friday night and escaped the next morning. Kim says she handed over $60,000 in cash and merchandise for an unspecified investment. Another $18,000 was reportedly used to pay for her and her daughter's entry permits into the CNMI. Police officials are continuing their investigation of this case.
And it's getting lonely at the public defender's office. In the past week, the number of attorneys in the office has dropped from 4 to 1. The situation is not expected to improve over the next several weeks. Pamela Picardal reports how one public defender copes with a difficult situation.
No man is an island, the same way that a public defender cannot stand alone now that he's faced with more than a handful of caseload piling up in his office. Public Defender Dan Dorienzo says manning the office all by himself is tough, but he's glad the court is helping him lift some of that load.
Well, it's very difficult at the time being. We have a lot of cases, and my main goal this week is to make sure that everybody gets represented by counsel, and that is to immediately work with the courts to make sure that other attorneys are being assigned, and the court can assign other attorneys. That's what's being done this week for all the people that were represented by the other public defenders. They're immediately doing what is known as court appointments, and the court is assigning somebody from a private firm to represent them.
Dorienzo says scheduled court proceedings vary in number each day. He says one day may average 20 traffic or DUI cases. The least could be 7. He points out that one way to keep their good lawyers from quitting their posts is for the government to realize that their office needs sufficient budget to keep them going.
I think that's part of the problem we've had with keeping good attorneys. They're given a house up there that leaks, that have faucets that are broken, that horrible maintenance.
Dorienzo says the public defender's office is not only there to protect the rights of the CNMI's accused indigent population. Unfortunately, he says, a lot of people see his office as a necessary evil.
What we do is very beneficial for the Commonwealth. Often, the Office of the Attorney General's office and the Department of Public Safety will arrest the wrong person. We don't just represent guilty people. There are many of our clients last year who were flat out innocent, had nothing to do with the crime, and if it weren't for us to step in and defend them, they would be in jail right now.
Police Chief Tony Regis says that office serves to protect the interests of poor criminal defendants. But he says it can only challenge the police system if it believes there's an error with arresting the wrong guy.
The court is the place to determine whether the officer is wrong or right. The public defender is there just to protect the interests of the accused and to defend them in any possible way for justice only.
In an effort to better the entire system of his office, the public defender hopes that more manpower and better equipment will be realized in the near future. In Susupe, I'm Pamela Picardal for KMCV News.
Dorienzo looks forward to his future assistant's arrival, Guam attorney Todd Christopher, on May 3rd. He adds he's looking to hire 2 local lawyers, one of whom will be attorney Christine Matson.
Speaker Tomas Vidzagomez wants some clarification on UMDA's lease of Marpi land.
And a celebrity egg toss raises more than chicken feed for a worthy cause.
Four months ago, a joint session of the legislature approved a 15-year lease extension of government land in Marpi for United Micronesia Development Association. In order to secure the lease, UMDA agreed to help underwrite the cost of building and operating a new landfill. UMDA's total public contribution for the 40-year lease amounts to $26.8 million. $5 million goes to landfill construction, another $5 million to the Saipan delegation for other infrastructure projects, and $1.4 million a year for 12 years for operational cost of the Marpi landfill. The Marianas Public Land Corporation has had the lease since December, incorporating the changes made to it during the joint session. When UMDA's lease extension agreement was sent to Speaker Tomas Vidzagomez, the Speaker says the $5 million contribution to the Saipan delegation was deleted.
I hope it's an oversight in there, because one thing I must get through is that, you know, the lease agreement must conform with the approving resolution that was, adopted by the House and the Senate. Because, if it's contrary to the approving resolution, technically the legislature have not approved the lease agreement. So my advice is to conform with the approving resolution, and then, I can put my signature on it.
UMDA President Joe Wechter says the Speaker's office never conveyed their concerns to him. He says he learned of them via a front-page article in Friday's newspaper. Wechter says UMDA has not changed the terms of their public contribution. He says it still stands at $26.8 million. Calls to MPLC attorney Brian McMahon for clarification on what was transmitted over to the legislature were not returned.
Land issues are also the focus of the Saipan delegation. Who's going to build what, where? The chairman of the group, Representative Pedro De Leon Guerrero, says before a proposed zoning act becomes law, legislators have to review, amend, or approve the plan by April 18.
My recommendation is to go ahead and approve the zoning code tomorrow. Some members may differ position with me. I believe it is one of the best written. If we put it into use, we can always amend any section of the proposed zoning that is not good in terms of management and application to the municipality of Saipan.
Tomorrow's session of the Saipan delegation is scheduled for 10 o'clock in the morning in the session hall and is open to the public.
What's lurking beneath our marine waters may hurt you. We've examined how fecal coliform bacteria gets into the lagoon and what those DEQ notices mean when the bacteria presence is high. Nanette Miranda concludes her series by reporting that those warnings may not be timely.
Saipan's marine waters are tested every Monday for fecal coliform bacteria. But from the time the samples are collected and the public is notified of any danger from the bacteria, 30 hours have elapsed. Edna Grismer from the Division of Environmental Quality tells us why so much time is needed.
We filter 100 mLs of water with a vacuum apparatus through a filter, and we put the filter in a petri dish with agar in the dish, and we have to incubate it at 44.5 degrees for 24 hours to allow the bacteria to grow so we can count it.
There's no faster way to do it, but Joe Sarconi, a scientist with DEQ, says there are precautions watergoers can take in the meantime.
The easiest advice to give would be to say that after a major storm event, it's likely that you'll see contamination at the sites of where the water runs into the lagoon from these storm drains.
But visitors to the island won't know they should stay away from these drains. The last thing tourists want to do when they're on vacation is read or listen to the news where the warnings may be publicized. Hyatt General Manager Clifford Growers says his staff even takes an extra step by hanging a red flag by their beach when the bacteria count is high. But even that, he says, isn't paid attention to either.
It's hard to go around and tell everyone not to just go in the water, especially when they come on vacation. Some do look at it and don't go in the water, some still carry on and go in the water.
But tourists who decide to go into the lagoon while a warning is in effect may take home some bad PR about the islands in the form of skin rashes or upset stomachs. It is therefore imperative that sufficient notice is given to the island's visitors. In this bad economy, the last thing the CNMI needs is a negative impact on tourism. In Garapan, Nanette Miranda for KMCV News.
Moving into something less hazardous, we hop into yesterday's Easter activities. Some were looking for eggs and others were tossing them. Excuse the expression, but tonight we bring you this expose. It was exciting at the Easter egg hunt. Kids weren't fooling around, they came with their thatched hard hats. They patiently listened to rules they hear each year. Then it was off to the races, looking behind light poles or digging through the bushes.
Did you get anything?
Where'd you find that egg? Pretty easy to find?
While some searched for their first egg, others misplaced theirs. The goal was to find one of 4 special eggs.
Oh, yeah. What do we got here? A key egg. Key egg. Yee! All right. You get to win. You keep that. There you go. Yeah. Wow. There you go. Key egg means you get a prize. A PIC medal. What else?
It's not a key to unlock a locker full of all kinds of cash.
Nope. Just a key egg.
The key hunter was back on the trails, but he didn't know that KMCV had the last golden egg.
I think there's an egg inside the camera. Look. Look inside. You see it?
There's no egg inside.
Are you sure?
That's because they were all being used for the celebrity egg toss. For 50 cents, people could throw premature chickens at island personalities, all for the benefit of the Plant Youth Center. In the end, Fox was soaking in 36 eggs.
A little bit.
Oh,
no, wait a minute.
Here's our representative.
It's Nanette.
I'm scared.
Let me have a hug.
No!
You can't touch this. Break it down.
We've got roughly a dozen people standing out here being pelted with eggs, and I think we've sold a couple of hundred eggs at this point.
So it's more successful than last year.
A lot more successful than last year, and I'm a lot dirtier than last year.
Well, it looks like the crowd is dwindling, so I guess I need to egg them on.
Ugh, that video is painful to watch. Yesterday's charity egg toss brought in about $26 dozen, or 311 to be precise. That figure cracks last year's record draw of $60. And someone that wasn't there at the egg toss was Willie. Where were you?
Would you believe another egg hunt?
I don't believe that for a second.
Well, anyways, the Phoenix Suns have clinched the Pacific Division title. And Bob's Baseball Bites continues with the Toyota Wheels. For today's sports fans, tonight we are continuing our series called Bob's Baseball Bites. Bob Codine, our commentator for Monday Night Baseball, is featuring a profile on each team of the Saipans Major League. Tonight's feature is on the Toyota Wheels.
Hello, baseball fans. Tonight we'll feature the Toyota Wheels, who have won 2 games and dropped 1 so far this year. They are sponsored by Micro Corporation and managed by Eddie Sablon. Louis Manabusen serves as the coach. The Wheels depend on righty Ben Lizama for much of their Hill performance. He was 4-2 last year with a 5.0 ERA. Backing him up is Roy Magofnia, who pitched for the now defunct Falcons last year, and rookie Tony K. Guerrero. Expected to arrive in May is the former championship hero Greg F. Camacho, who is now playing college ball in Pasadena, California. He should be a tremendous asset for the Wheels in the second half of the season. The backstopper is Al Camacho, who can also play first base. Al has clobbered the only home run in the league so far this year. He has a good eye at the plate and a strong arm behind it. Larry Guerrero can also catch and was last year's starter. At first base is slick fielding Nick Regis. At second base, Ron Benavente, who is among the Saipan Major League career leaders in doubles, RBIs, runs, and walks. The shortstopper is speedster Pete Roberto. He batted .361 last year and led the team in RBIs. Over at third base, Bobby Lozama. He's a third on the all-time hits list and fourth all-time in runs. Joe Lozama plays left field. He hit .333 last year. Pepe Tenorio roams center field and has one of the strongest arms in the league. Manny Evangelista is the new right fielder. The free-swinging southpaw hit .333 last season for the Falcons. The designated hitter for the Wheels is all-time Saipan Major League great Chris Pangilinan. And what has he done, you ask? Well, he's hit the most home runs in the Saipan Major League, 6, has the most doubles, 27, and has a career batting average of .318. Jason Wesley provides another solid bat off the bench for the Wheels. Of course, the Toyota Wheels are expected to contend with the Termites for the championship this year. So stay tuned for more Bob's Baseball Bites later on.
Welcome back. Tonight's forecast will be partly cloudy skies with isolated light showers. The winds will come from the east at 10 to 15 miles per hour, and the low temperature tonight will be in the mid-70s. The seas tonight will be slight to moderate at 3 to 5 feet. The surf will be 4 to 6 feet on northern, clockwise to southeastern beaches and reefs, and 2 to 4 feet elsewhere. Our low tide tonight started just a few minutes ago at 6:11 with a negative 1/10 of a foot. The tide will rise again to 2.2 feet early tomorrow morning at 1:50 a.m. And the tide will go back down to 1.6 feet later on tomorrow morning around 6:45. The sun will set right after this newscast at 6:34 this evening, and if you're an early riser, you can enjoy the sunrise tomorrow morning at 6:10. And our outlook for tomorrow, you can expect partly to mostly cloudy conditions. And that's all for our weather report, but not with our newscast. Willie?
There's some nice weather from what Carlotta is saying, and I guess there's nice weather at the baseball field, huh, Will?
Yes, I think we just about fixed our technical difficulties. So let's go back to the baseball field.
Bob's doing quite a job there, Willie. Tell us about the significance of that particular cut-in.
Well, it's great. Now you people can see who's there tonight, and you make sure you go on by or stay home and watch on this same channel.
More news with Mina Dela Cruz is next. And one other programming note, be sure and tune in 7 o'clock Wednesday night for the John Anderson Show. Our guest will be garment industry spokesman and sports commentator, attorney Bob O'Connor.
That guy's everywhere. On behalf of the entire KMCV News team, thanks for joining us. We'll see you again tomorrow. Good night.
Good night.
Just